Hey guys, this is Kerry, and in this video we're going to continue working on the Hangman project from last time. So it's always a good idea when you open a project for the first time in the morning to load up your REPL. So I've got my Hangman REPL open, and then also to check out where you got up to. So I'm going to open up the JavaScript console here, and I can see that the main thing that's going on here is that it's choosing which word is going to be the secret word. So here the secret word is ONLY. The computer chooses that. And it's allotting the correct number of underscores here for these letters. So if we update it again, okay, here it's only 2 letters, so LA. 5 letters, so WOULD. Awesome. All right, so what we're going to be working on first today is I was actually thinking about this project, and there's just a quick little renaming that I want to do. So this idea of a game loop works really well for a lot of programming languages, but for JavaScript, the way that event listeners work, I'm thinking of this program a little different this morning than I was yesterday. And I think to highlight my thinking, I just want to change the name of this function actually to make it an update function. Because what I'm really going to be doing with this part of the function is I'm going to be updating the information on the screen. So I'm going to change the name of that. So I'm also going to change my comment here, update the screen. Now, one of the nice things about the function is to have a descriptive name. So if I change game loop here in line 9 to update screen, and then I change it in the function definition to the same thing with camel case for the lettering. So we get the right capitalization, update screen. I think now things will be a little bit better for me because this morning the way I'm thinking about it is a little different from yesterday. I'm thinking about this more as instead of taking care of the getting the input part, the updating the screen part. And I think you'll see why, because the getting the input really feels like an event listener. And it kind of works separately a little bit from some of the other things that we've done in the update screen function. So I'm going to delete that last comment, and now I think I'm ready to start gathering information from the player. So to gather this information, I'm going to be selecting some more stuff that we're interacting with. So to get information from the player, we're going to need to select the input element, which doesn't have an ID, and the button element, which doesn't have an ID. So let input equal document.querySelector, and we're going to select it using the tag type, not an ID, tag type, so no hashtag. It'll be input. And then here we'll say let button equal document.querySelector, and we'll be selecting the button. Again, no hashtag because button is the element type. It's like this, right? We're selecting it because of that instead of an ID. All right, so cool. All right, so in our setup function now, we are having the computer pick a word, we're logging the word, and then we're going to update our screen. I think after this, what we can do is part of the setup is to add the event listener so the user can input their guesses. All right, so let's see. I'm going to go to my cheat sheet, which I don't usually do for an event listener, because I think a lot of us actually do that. So let's see. Here we go, element.addEventListener. So I'll copy and paste that, although I do honestly prefer to write it in because the tabbing is easier for me to mentally sort out here. So which element is going to be listening for an event? Okay, well the button is going to be listening for a click event. Okay, and here we actually understand the syntax maybe a little bit better. When the button gets clicked, we're going to run a function. This one has no inputs, and that function will be this code block. So I think it's interesting that as we're learning some more syntax in JavaScript, some of the other stuff that we've been using makes sense. All right, so the first thing that we're going to have to do when we click on this button is we're going to have to figure out what letter did the user type in this box. So for example, to get that, what you do is you say let, I don't know, maybe something like letter guess, again using camel case, where the G gets capitalized. called camel case because the capital letters almost make like little camel humps. And it's easy to read because you can see the start of the new word. So this is going to be go to the input field and take the value out of that. So this will be the input field here. And in this case, it will take the value A out of that and make it our guess. All right, and let's just do a console.log their letter guess to make sure that things are working. So we'll refresh our screen. It runs the setup function. So we've got little 6 underscores. And now maybe we want to guess A. So we'll type guess, and we can see that our guess is showing up down here, which is perfect. All right, now what do we actually want to do with that guess? We want to append this guess. I guess I'm giving away the vocabulary word there. Append this guess to the already guessed letters. Oops, already guessed letters. We want to show this guess on the screen, or we want to update our screen. All right, so to append it to the already guessed letters, I think one thing that will make sense is to actually create an already guessed letters list. So maybe in our setup here, before we jump into anything, we can say let guessed letters will be currently an empty set. Now in order to append the guessed letter, so in the case here A to this list, what we need to do is we need to have our functions for manipulating list. So I'm going to go to the cheat sheet and I'm going to grab the list tools functions that we defined here. So we'll copy these over. I'm going to define these functions up here before we get into the setup function. So now we're going to be able to use these. So we want to append the guess to the already guessed letters. Okay, that seems good. So we'll do append. We're naming the guessed letters list, guessed letters, with the right capitalization. And the thing that we're going to append to that, the value that we're going to append, is the letter guess that we're grabbing from this input field here. Okay, after doing that, we should do a console.log the guessed letters so that we can actually see what's happening behind the scenes in our code. I'm just going to add my semicolons. All right, we'll refresh it here, and then when we take a guess, A, nice. We can see that a new list is appearing down here. If we clear this out and we take a new guess, Y, we can see that we have our guesses here, A and Y. All right, this is awesome. So now what we want to do is we want to update our screen. So we'll run the update screen function. And whenever we run the update screen function here, we can see that it requires an input of the word. The word doesn't change. This is the computer's word that it picked early on. So we're going to put this word, the computer's picked word, here as the parameter. Okay, and let's see. Now when we update our screen, things are going to be a little bit more complicated, which is before we change this part of the screen, we may want to fill in the letters that are guessed. So for the letters that are guessed, what we can do is we can say guessed letters dot for each, and we're going to take each letter that the user's guessed, and we want to put those letters here after this phrase. So this will be interacting with an element on the page. So the first thing we'll have to do is before we get to our function, select it. So already guessed seems to be the ID for this. So let me copy and paste that. I'll go to the JavaScript. Up here, we'll select another thing. Let already guessed. And you'll notice that I always use the same variable name as I do ID, document.querySelector. Already guessed. And I'm missing my hashtag, so make sure that you add the hashtag in because we're using the ID to select it. All right, so already guessed is currently this is its inner HTML. And actually, we probably want to keep this part of the inner HTML when we update it. So what we can do here is, before we go into our for each loop, we can clear out whatever we had here and replace it with this "you have already guessed" text. So already guessed dot inner HTML, we're going to set equal to this with a space. And now to the end of this, we'll have to add the letters that they've already guessed. So guessed letters dot for each letter, we'll say go to already guessed and add to the text that's inside of the HTML there. Well, make the inner HTML of that stuff equal to whatever it used to be, which in this case will just be this text here, plus the letter that they guessed here, plus maybe a space. So it's going to take each of the letters and it's going to put them here, and I think you'll see. Let's take a look. So now if I refresh this and I guess A, whoa, okay, I've made a mistake there, right? Let's see what the mistake is. Already guessed, we're adding to the inner HTML of this, already guessed inner HTML. It added actually the paragraph element itself instead of the stuff inside of it. So here we go. Now we can see that A goes there, B goes there. So now our guesses are actually showing up on the screen, which is awesome. All right, cool. So let's see what we can do next. I think one thing that we could do next is we could improve what's happening here, which is we really only want to show these underscores if the letters haven't actually been guessed. So what we could do here is we could say, let's see. When we're updating that, instead of always adding underscore space, we really only want to do that when they haven't guessed the letter properly. So let's see. JavaScript, check if a value is in an array. It looks like this includes function could be pretty cool. Let's see. Oh my god, it's so complicated. Yeah, this is going to work for us. So what it's doing here is it's checking to see if this fruits array includes mango, and I can see that the value will be true. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to make use of that array method. And this is actually what programmers do, right? I've told you guys a couple of times that nobody really memorizes these things. I haven't memorized them because I haven't always used them. I don't know if I've ever used includes. So what we're going to do here now is we're going to say if the guessed letters array dot includes the letter that we're currently up to, then instead of doing this, we want to do something similar to it. We want to take hints.innerHTML, this thing, and instead of putting a blank spot there, we want to actually put the letter and then a space. We only want to put the blank spot there in the case that it's not included, so we'll use an else part of our loop here. So I've never used this function here. I'm kind of concerned if it's going to work here. Let's see if it works. So, I can already see that it's not working the way I expected. But let's see if it improves there. So we get I. T. So yeah, I can spell it out. I just am noticing that the underscores are not appearing there. Let's see. So if guessed letters dot includes the letter, then it does this. Otherwise, it should be doing this. Maybe it didn't save. Let's take a look. You know what? It didn't save an update. That's really frustrating. I hope this will now work. Yes, cool. So when I guess I, it gives me this one and then a blank spot. Let's see what happens if I guess a letter that's not there. So maybe I'm thinking it's it. Okay, it's not showing up. And then finally an S there. All right, cool, awesome. So things are looking pretty good here in terms of the display. I think one thing that is a little bit incorrect here is the hangman part with the guesses. So let's see if we can do a little better than what we did before. So down here where we're defining not the selected variables, but some of these variables that keep coming up, we can say let guesses left equal 10 seems a little bit excessive actually for Hangman. I think maybe 5 guesses, like 5 wrong guesses left is more appropriate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that. And I'm going to change in the index.html this to say 5 when we start. All right, so now what we're going to do here is I'm going to interact with this part of the document. So we're going to grab guesses left. And what we'll do here is we'll do let guesses left, oh, I just copied it. So let guesses left equal document.querySelector. And we're going to select the thing with ID of guesses left. I'm having a little bit of an overlap here, right, with my variable names. Can you see it? I've defined guesses left to mean 2 different things. The part of the screen itself, right here, and then also the value that we're going to be plugging in. So I need to change these things. So guesses left, I'll leave as that because that matches the ID. And then here, I'll just say maybe guess chances remaining will be a better name for that. All right, so what we're going to do here is when we take a guess, we need to see about the chances remaining. So let's take a look there. So we append this to that. We do a console.log with that. Okay, cool. Well, before we jump into all of this stuff, let's check if the word has the right letters. Check if the word has the letter. So what we can do there is we can actually make pretty good use of the similar function. See this includes function that we are using here that I've never used before. So what we can say is let word list, similar to what we did here. So I'm going to copy and paste that. So we're going to make a list out of the computer's word. So in this case, the list would be is from the word that the computer picked. So let word list equal that. And what we could say here is if word list dot includes, and now we're checking to see if it includes their letter guess, then I'm not sure yet what I want to have happen there. I can tell though that if it doesn't include it, what we want to do is we want to say, okay, well, whatever guesses they had remaining, whatever chances remaining they had, should be 1 less. So we'll do chances remaining equals chances remaining minus 1. Okay? So now if word list dot includes, oh, well, what we could do here is we could also put in some of this functionality down here. So we are going to give them some feedback here. So let's select, oh, I don't want to add a folder. Let's select that element on the page here. That's feedback. So we'll do up here, let feedback equal document.querySelector hashtag feedback. And so when we give them this part here, if we check to see if it's included, maybe what we could do for feedback is we could say feedback.innerHTML. The word has at least 1, and then we could add in their letter guess. And what we could do down here is for chances remaining is we could subtract 1 chances remaining. We could also give them some feedback here, and we could say, okay, well, the word has no of whatever they guessed. Okay, let's see. There's one more thing left here, which is to update this chances remaining part. So I'm thinking to put this in the update screen function here. So whenever we update the screen, we'll update that. So we'll say something along the lines of update the guesses remaining. I'm going to actually move this comment here. This is no longer applicable to that top part. This is now applicable to this part here. And this will be update the already guessed part. So here we go. We're going to be updating this part here. So what we can say is the name of this element is guesses left. So down here we'll do guesses left dot inner HTML will be equal to this type of sentence, but instead of having a 10 there, we're going to plug in however many guesses. Oh no, wait, what did we name it? Chances remaining because of the overlap. Chances remaining with plus signs on both sides and spaces. Okay, let's see how this looks. All right, so here we go. Let me guess the letter that's there. So this should, if I guess H, because the word is had, it should correctly update this, and it should give better feedback than this. The word has at least one H. We've guessed an H. We still have 5 guesses remaining because we didn't get anything wrong, and this looks good. Let's take a look. If we try E now, it reduces our number of guesses, and it tells us that the word has no E, which is awesome. It also doesn't show any E's here, which makes sense because our word is had. All right, let's see. If we guess one more that it has, maybe A here. Yes, it has at least one A, and we can see that update here. All right, this is starting to get pretty good here in terms of modeling the game itself. I'm going to refresh a couple of things I see in the HTML here. So if I refresh the page, I no longer want to say 10 guesses. And I'm also going to delete this sort of mysterious feedback here that was just a placeholder from the HTML. So let's see. Directions. I'm thinking of word. You can make figure out the word by guessing letters. You can make only 5 mistakes, or it will mean game over. I will inform you whether these letters are in the word. Cool. And then for feedback here, maybe the starting feedback is take a guess. Feedback will appear here. All right, so I'm thinking this. Feedback will appear here. It didn't save with exclamation point. Okay, cool. It takes just a minute slower than I'm going. Let's take a look at this one. So I'm going to run it with this example one more time just to see. Okay, this has no A's. That's absolutely accurate. So we have 4 guesses left. It has no B's, so we have 3 guesses left. Let's get one right. E, so E appears in the word there. What I'd really like to do is maybe I can refresh this. Okay, before is a perfect example. I wanted to see one where I had 2 E's to check to see if that would work. Let me see if this works. Okay, both E's show up. This is looking really good. All right, so there's a couple things that are missing that we haven't programmed yet. You'll notice that the game doesn't have a winner or a loser, so we'll need to be able to check to see when we win and check to see if we lose. And I think we're going to finish this in another video, and then hopefully we'll have some time to style it as well. This looks like a good stopping point for today, because you could really play the game as long as you're confident when you win. For example, if you happen to do this, you would know that you won, even though the computer is not telling you that you won. Or in the case where you ran out of guesses, you would know that you had lost. So the game is very playable, but it would be more playable if the computer would give you this information instead of you having to realize, oh, I've won. All right, so we'll do that next class, and you'll see that our functional approach to this game is actually kind of wild, right? This is just like a little summary. We used all of our normal built-in functions of JavaScript. We copied and pasted those functions that we had built before. And we've added a lot of functions of our own here to make it work.